Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Keron Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And as usual, when you hear the voice, you already know who it is. Your boy, Mr. Rose. DJ, you know what to do. You gotta fade us all the way out. You gotta fade us out so we can talk to the people. It is Monday, July 29th, 2024, and this is episode number 170. How are you lovely ladies and gentlemen doing inside of the Digipreneur community? We are over the halfway point in 2024. August is upon us, and my oh my, has this year just kind of just flown by, zoomed by us. Before you know it, I mean, we already had Christmas in July here, so in Trinidad and Tobago. So before you know it, it's going to be that time again. Back to school is right there. Then it's Christmas time, and this year is the year really has flown by. Now, I took a bit of a little break, I guess, a little break. I had a little 2.5 weeks off the podcast. We've been going really good. And even though I might have taken the break off the podcast, you guys keep in mind, we're still everywhere. We still have the radio show. We still have TV. We've been pumping out the blogs on a consistent basis. We have our articles in the newspapers and, on their platforms and whatnot. And then we still have social media. And then this month, this month has been busy because there's been a number of workshops that I've been doing, a lot of public workshops this month. And so, you just conserve your energy. And because, when I get on the mic for the podcast, I usually have a lot to say. And whenever I don't feel like I have enough to say, I've gotten okay with just taking that little mini break, because I know that, it's better to take the break than quit. And we're never going to quit, but we will take the little break when we feel like it's needed and get right back to it, hop back on the bike and keep it pushing, So, this episode I want to make an announcement and then kind of dive into the why and where we're going with the conversation. So let me kick things off by saying that I am officially going to be migrating. Bombshell announcement. Yeah, I'm officially going to be migrating. And it's been something that has been on my mind this entire year. But the voice has been, getting louder and louder and louder. Currently, I mean, if you're new to the podcast, if this is your first time tuning in for an episode, currently I am based in Trinidad and Tobago. So I was born in Trinidad. We left when I was like 2 months old, and we moved over to Canada. And I've lived in Toronto, Canada, from since a baby, uh, right up until my 28th birthday. Right, and I've been in Trinidad for 10 years now, and it's been an amazing time. I wouldn't change anything. It's been absolutely amazing. Um, I've grown a lot. I've been able to, you know, figure myself out, which ultimately was the goal when I came. I was in a rough state when I came. And Trinidad was able to just allow me to just get away from the noise and of Toronto and kind of just get myself grounded and figure my life out. And I think in 10 years, I think it's done exactly what it needed to do. So I wouldn't change a goddamn thing. It's been absolutely amazing. Living in the Caribbean has been amazing, right? I've enjoyed it. I've been able to see, some amazing islands, and meet some amazing people, eat some amazing food. It's just been good, right? But why have I decided to migrate? I think when I give you the reasons, it's going to make sense, right? Because a lot of the content so all of the content I put out is my own experiences and me sharing them with you. And it's everything that I've had to learn in order to conduct my business from Droid Island and right up into, what I do now at my digipreneur business. It's everything that I've had to learn in order to build a business and build it digitally is what I've done and I share with you, right? And the majority of it happens because I know that the information just isn't there, right? I know that we are in a place where people just don't share information, and even when information gets shared, it's not in any searchable way for you to get the information that you want. A lot of the information typically happens behind closed doors or offline, right? So when you start trying to Google anything, you can't find anything. So over the years, I've just decided to just start to put content out and help you guys along the way. And whenever I learn, I put it out, and thankfully over the years, it's helped thousands of you at this point. It's always amazing whenever I get stopped and people are like, this has helped me. This has saved my life. It's always amazing to get these stories because you never know who is watching. You never know who's listening. You never know who is, suffering from the same problems as you or even worse. And you might have that one nugget of information that can change somebody's life around. And I've been fortunate and blessed enough that I've been able to meet so many of you where the information and content has really helped change your lives, whether personally or whether it professionally. All right. So I know that, the work that I do has its place, has a lot of meaning. Some people don't get it, but at the end of the day, I know that the information and the content always reaches who it needs to reach. So even whenever I do get criticism, I know at the end of the day, the information reaches the people it needs to reach. And that's why I'm able to just keep on trucking along, right? But much of that information is me having to figure out the back doors or how to circumvent problems that we are facing. And I think there's been being in Trinidad. I think we've gotten to a point now where there's only so much runway you have to grow. There's only so much you can do to actually build a business and a brand in Trinidad because the limitations are far too great. Anybody that is truly building anything of note isn't here. And I know some people hate when I say it, but the people that are really building things of note are not in Trinidad. We have amazing Trinbagonians building amazing things or being part of amazing projects all over the world. But it's not happening here. And it's not happening here for many, many reasons. And the biggest one is the limitations that we have in Trinidad. You cannot scale. You cannot truly build something that scales and goes big. And the people that are doing that have had to take their business and bring it outside. You know, one of the best examples to recent memory was, look at a company like WePay. I'll use that as an example. Look at a company like WePay. They specifically moved because the limitations in Trinidad are too great, too unmoving. The people that uphold the institutions are too inflexible, and they themselves are not keeping up with the rate of change. So it makes having conversations with them 100 times harder because you're not even speaking to people who are keeping up in the spaces that they are in. They are just centuries just trying to keep everything the same. So if you're somebody that's building a business that is not really trying to scale, like you could make a good living in Trinidad. You could open up a restaurant and be successful and make good money, right? But how many of these people are building restaurants and scaling that business outside of Trinidad? We've had news that yet another bank has reduced the access to the foreign exchange to US dollars on credit cards. And we're going to just keep on seeing that trend as the economy continues to trend downwards. We're going to continue to see access to US dollars get slashed. When you start factoring the crime situation, especially for business owners, we have seen different heads of business chambers from around the country speaking out how business owners have been targeted. They've been I don't want to say burglarized, but they've been targeted for extortion. They've been targeted for robberies. And being a business owner of note is now putting a target on your back. When you factor in the crime situation, it makes it even harder to be here, especially as a business owner. So we do not have a environment that is friendly to building. We have an environment that is friendly for, you could start a business, you could make some money, you could be okay, but it's not allowing you to grow and to be bigger. It's keeping you at a very, very low level because the ecosystem and the systems and the tools that we have here are not meant to allow you to grow. Give you an example. Doing a workshop in Tobago, and this is with the THA, and we're doing a workshop with multiple business owners. And a couple of the business owners are like, yo, we don't even want, like, we want to do more digital, but we do good right now and we want to do better. But we have so many problems right now with even growing how we know that adding in anything new that allows us to get bigger is going to be even more problematic. And that's because you have people who are bringing in goods, whether it be, buying and selling or, bringing in materials to make things to then go and sell. And they're like, yo, we bring things in. We're at the scale that we bring things in by the container. But Tobago only has one dock. And when you have cruise season coming in, the cruise ships, they're the ones that get priority. And the transports ferry, the cargo ferry, doesn't come over when it's cruise ship season, and they end up having to wait an additional 2 to 3 months for the ferry to come and bring the goods over from Trinidad because the cruise ships are coming in and they're docking. Then when it comes over, then you have to go through customs and yada, yada, yada. And you're forced back to jumping on a plane and trying to bring over as much things in your suitcase as you possibly can to keep the lights on. So if they were to implement more digital and start to scale more, they wouldn't be able to supply because that entire value chain is a broken system. Our system for customs in Trinidad, mess. So you can have a business. You just can't scale the business to where you really want. And like I said, with the access to US dollars being slashed, it makes scaling your business even harder, especially if you need external outputs, like to bring in products and whatnot. I have a friend who, is going to China to go and get materials for their business. And I was letting them know, I'm like, you know what? That's really good, right? That's dope. But I'm like, I started thinking about it. And I'm like, you know what's crazy is that we're going to get to a point where you won't even have access to the US dollars to get on that plane. Like to book your own flight. You won't even have access to the US dollars to book your own flight. And then even when you do manage to book that flight, you won't even have access to the US dollars on your credit card to purchase materials because the banks are going to slash this thing to a point of no return. They're going to slash this thing. Right now, personal credit cards have access to 5,000 US dollars. That's going to get slashed again. So, whilst being Trinbagonian is a flex, hey, I'll never deny that. Whilst being Trini is a flex, physically being in Trinidad is hampering your growth and progress. Which is why the people who are actually building something of note have had to migrate. One of the biggest reasons why, and I mentioned this in a previous episode, but one of the biggest reasons why we have the brain drain, right? And this is according to the United Nations when they had their Small Island Developing States conference a couple of weeks ago in Antigua, is that you have the people that are going to universities, they are getting the degrees, their masters, their PhDs, and there's a misalignment between skills and jobs. People are getting the skills, but there's no jobs to go and apply their trade. And so then they take all that education because they don't want it to go to waste. You spent how many years trying to get the education? And then they go take a job somewhere else, and the only time they return is to retire, which is the number one reason why we have an aging population. People take their skills, they go out into the world and go do their thing, and then they only come back when it's time to retire. But now you factor in the amount of crime that's happening and the amount of home invasions that are happening with especially, how many elder people have been robbed at this point. Just 2 days ago, there was a robbery and a murder to somebody in their 70s. Just 2 days ago. And it's a frequent thing that's happening. So the crime has spiraled out of control, where I don't even see Trinidad as a place for you to retire. Because if you can't live because you're being targeted as well for being old, then what are we doing? But the entire environment, from the business aspect to the crime, everything right now in Trinidad has left me uninspired. And when I went over to Colombia in May, as soon as you land and you start to walk around, just the entire environment was inspiring me. The business community is thriving over there. The tech community is thriving over there. I have a good bit of connections over in Colombia now, that I've met on LinkedIn. So I pay attention to see what's happening over there. A lot of good things are happening over there, right? And when you see where Colombia was, remember, Colombia had Pablo Escobar, the Cali cartel, all of them guys, right? And when you think about where they've come from, being the most violent place in the world at one point in time, with Medellin being the most violent city and the most violent place in the world at one point in time, not too long ago. Their entire turnaround came in the late 2000s. And the government was able to transform that company into the magnificent country that it is today. Right? There's a reason why Colombia and Medellin in particular has become, one of the best places in the world to travel to and visit. And there's a reason why their expat community is growing over there too. There's a lot happening over there. But just going over there and spending time, just had me inspired to work and had me inspired to do, to grow and just, again, it's just being there. And it's everything from the environment, literally the environment, the trees, the landscapes, the cafes, the restaurants, the places to go and work, the food, everything was just pouring into me. Right? And you come back, and with everything that's happening in Trinidad, again, not just the crime, but the business community is not that great. It's far too many limitations, where you're always having to figure out a roundabout way to get to where you want. There's no straightforward path to just do what you got to do to grow and to build. And then when you factor in the foreign exchange situation, and it's a very big problem. It's a massive problem, right? Most of the other islands don't have this issue. When you factor all of these things in, it's extremely depressing and draining. And I can't be who I need to be for me, for myself, when I'm not inspired or I feel like my environment is draining. And if I can't be me for me, how can I be me for the people that need me? And it's impacting everything from just my own mental health, because now I'm starting to adapt to my environment, and it's not healthy adaptations. You don't want to go out as much anymore. You are constantly having to pay attention to your environment, and not pay attention in a good way. Like when I'm just using an example, I'm just using Colombia as an example, right? Going to Colombia, I paid a lot of and I'm always paying attention to my environment, but when you're in a safe place, you're paying attention to your environment for different things. I'm looking at the leaves, I'm looking at architecture, I'm listening to the sounds of nature, I'm listening to the rivers passing through the cities. You're paying attention to the different things, and there's a peace and there's a calm. And now we're at a point where I'm paying attention to all of the wrong things in my environment, because now people are getting robbed at gunpoint in every nook and cranny. Doesn't matter the day, doesn't matter the time, doesn't matter where. One of the super farms that I go to is Valsain, and just a week ago, I watched a video of this lady park in front of the doors in Super Farm in Valsain at 11 o'clock in the morning, and a vehicle just pulls up in front of her. 3 guys jump out with guns to her face and take her car. And this is in front the doors of Valsain. Security is there. When I was going to the States, ending of last year, in December, I was in a store, and this lady parked in a handicapped parking spot by the door. And as she's coming in, she catches a gun butt. People take her keys, jump in her car, and tail off. And I'm cashing while she's stumbling in crying because she just got hit with a gun butt. And, you know? So the environment itself is extremely draining, and things are happening at on a ridiculous rate that, you just don't want to. You start questioning, why am I putting myself through this place? And I don't have to go through it. That's the thing, right? I don't have to go through it. So, the beginning of this year, I've been, after going to Colombia, I was like, I could really spend some time in Colombia, right? And then going back again in May, I was like, you know what? I really could make that move. And whilst I was thinking about it and really just, kind of weighing my pros, weighing my cons, really thinking about if I could move, the answer is yes. Do I want to? What am I going to do? Can I run my business? Can I do what I have to do if I move? These are some things that I had to work out in my mind. And then I just started to go down the rabbit hole of looking at, where are the digital nomads of the world? Where are they going? And this is why over the past couple of episodes in the podcast, we started talking about becoming a digital nomad, whether it was time to migrate, what are the digital skills that are in demand, because there's many of you that have the same thoughts that I do, and I'm having some amazing conversations with you guys, both online and offline. And you have people looking for solutions. And I've been looking for solutions. And I started thinking about the fact that, you know what? Everything in life happens for a reason. And I had switched when I stopped doing Droid Island in 2021, I got out of the having a physical product business and moved strictly into a 100% digital based business where all of my services are digital. Um, the products, the workshops, the teachings, everything I do is digital now. And that has allowed me to work from wherever I want to work. So unknowingly to me, I've just been conditioning myself to be able to work from anywhere for the past couple of years. And so now I've decided that, you know what? I think it is time to move. I need to put myself in the best possible environment to be inspired, to be healthy, to give myself the best possible chance to do the best work and to become the best version of me. Just like how when I left Toronto 10 years ago, I moved because I know at that point in time I was at my lowest point and I was fucking up. Excuse my français. And I knew that I needed to change my environment in order to transform my life and give myself the opportunity to become the best version of me. And I am feeling that way. I'm feeling the same way that I've felt where I'm like, you know what? It's time for me to change. It's time for me to grow. It's time for me to evolve. And I don't know if you know that saying, but when you put a shark in a small tank, a shark only grows to the size of its tank. You want the shark to get bigger, you got to put him in a bigger tank. Think about your plants. In order for your plants to grow, you got to put your plant in the best possible conditions. Got to give them the right soil, the right fertilizer, the right sunlight, the right amount of water. You got to give him the best possible environment for your plant to do its thing. And that's where I'm at. And so once I accepted that that is where I'm at, and I am indeed, after doing a whole lot of soul searching, ready to move on. And it wasn't an easy decision to make because growing up, whenever I would visit Trinidad always felt like the home where I should be. Whilst I lived in Toronto my entire life, Toronto never felt like home. Home always felt like when I was in Trinidad. So making the decision to leave wasn't easy. But I know that in order for me to become the best version of me, a change is needed. And so we're going into August, so for the last 3 months, I've just been in research mode. I don't even want to call it wasn't a funk. I was going to say I was in a bit of a funk, but it wasn't a funk. It was research mode. It was me kind of just hunkering down and trying to explore the world of opportunities and get myself in a right frame of mind that we're going to do this and we don't know how it's going to play out. But I've built quite a number of skills over the past couple of years that I have been able to build a level of confidence in myself that lets me know that, bro, doesn't matter where you go, you're good. Regardless of where you go, whether you decide to stay, it doesn't matter what place you end up, you're good. And I had to accept that voice and that train of thought. And then I started to research, and the first place I was looking at was Colombia. That was the first place I was looking at. Colombia. But whilst in Colombia, another place started to come up as well, and that was Bali. So Bali is another hot spot for digital nomads. And when you start going down the rabbit hole, you start to see and get exposed to a lot of things. And in looking at the business community and the growing number of digital nomads moving to Medellin, you start seeing Bali being a hotspot and why Bali's a hotspot for digital nomads. And then again, that just started exposing you to, where the top spots for digital nomads are going when you start to go down that rabbit hole of research. And it really blew my mind, because then you started to see the concept of reverse migration, where more people from the US, Canada, the UK are picking themselves up and they're leaving and going to quote unquote third world countries because better costs of living, and people are learning how to take their stronger currencies and live in economies that have a lower cost of living. And it's funny because reverse migration it's funny because it's like, whilst people in the third world, people in third world countries are doing everything possible to pick up and put themselves in a better situation, and they're flying over to the US, Canada, the UK, and they've been doing that for generations. It's funny now that people are like, man, this ain't it. And they're picking up and they're moving to the same places that, everybody is trying to flee. But it's different because now that you're coming with your stronger currency and you can now inject that money into the economy, what we are seeing, I've spoken about this in a previous episode, what we are seeing now is governments are starting to realize, hey, we want your stronger currencies. We want your stronger currencies. We want you to resettle here. What countries, I wanted to say companies, what countries are figuring out is how do we protect our local citizens? Because remember, this is why you have the US and European countries always so strong against migration, because they don't want people coming and taking the jobs and doing it for half the price and undercutting. Like that has been the reality for as long as I've known myself, right? But now we have a new problem. And the new problem is people that are coming to these other economies that have a lower cost of living and bringing their stronger currencies and raising the costs for the local environment, right? So governments are putting in laws to ensure that they protect their citizens, but trust and believe it's only growing because they want the cash injection. Countries in Asia, countries in South America, Central America as well, they know that we need your money to help grow the economy. What they're trying to figure out and what they're doing is ensuring that they protect their citizens. So, give an example. I'll use Thailand as an example. Thailand has implemented laws where if you're going to open a business in Thailand, it needs to be 51% owned by a Thai person. If you are going to buy land, as of right now, a non-Thai person cannot buy land in Thailand. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, it's not that you can't buy land, right? There are ways to do it. They've just given a major priority to Thai people when it comes to buying their land. So, nations around the world are right now looking to take advantage of reverse migration. They're just figuring out the best ways to protect their citizens whilst trying to win the hearts of the expats, especially the digital nomad community, because they know that a digital nomad isn't coming here to take the jobs from local people. They're coming with their work. They could work from anywhere. So we want you to work here because you're going to be bringing all of that money and you're going to be spending it right here. But you're not taking any one of the jobs from local people. So that's one of the other things as well. Like if you're gonna go and get a work permit for a company there, you gotta go down that road. And then there's obviously rules and regulations in order for them to even issue a work permit anyway, right? Did you try to get a Thai person first? What is so special about this foreigner that we have to go and bring their expertise out from outside? So digital nomads in particular are a priority for countries to try to attract because they're not taking any local jobs. They're literally just coming with themselves and potentially with their families, and they're working for companies outside of that country, but they're bringing in their stronger currency to start to circulate that and grow the economy. And so I've been looking into Colombia, been looking into Bali. I was looking into Singapore and then finally Thailand. And after the last 2 months of heavy research, I have decided that I will be moving to Thailand. And in particular, Bangkok. I've been missing big city life. Island life is dope, but I've been missing big city life. And one of the reasons why I'm specifically saying big city is because Bali is, I at some point I'm going to spend some time in Bali. At some point. It took a while. It was really between Medellin and Bali for some time. But the reason I started to look at Singapore is because I'm in the tech space, right? I'm in the digital space. I'm in e-commerce. I'm in marketing. And when I look at all of the things that I do, one of the reasons that made me get to where I'm at in Trinidad is because coming from Canada, my benchmark of how things should be going in the digital space was very high. So I had a benchmark to strive to. So I was always looking at, well, what are we doing in Canada? And what is the equivalent of that in Trinidad and the wider Caribbean? What is the equivalent of what we would have done in Canada? And let me go and reverse engineer that. Let me go and find out the tools and the workflows and the processes and all that stuff. And that is what has allowed me to get where I'm at today, right? I had that benchmark. But I'm now 10 years removed from Canada. There's a lot of things that are happening over there. But because I'm not physically there to see it, to touch it, to get the inside look as to how all these things work, I could only look at it from the outside, right? And some of that has some merit. Some of that is nice because you could still, I'm smart enough to reverse engineer some things. But again, I also need to be inspired in what I do. And part of that inspiration is what I see, what I can touch, what I can use, what I can access. And for the past couple of years, I've also had a battle of I don't want to learn about things that I cannot use because that's just taking up brain space. That's just taking up energy. You know why? There's a lot of people that constantly want to look at things that you have no access to and you can't build it. But because I've gotten to that point, I've started to realize that's also it's a double-edged sword. It's allowed me to focus on figuring out what I can actually do. But then you get to a point where we have so many limitations, I also need to learn about other things as well. And so, I was looking at Singapore because Singapore is one of the most technologically advanced places. And I was like, you know what? I need to spend some time over there because I need to light some fire in my own passion. I need to get re-inspired. I need to learn. I need to see. I need to touch. And when I can learn, when I can see, when I can touch, when I can interact, it's going to help me synthesize the information and everything else that I talk about. It's going to be easier for me to teach and talk about these things when I bring that information back to the Caribbean and diaspora. And then I was looking at the cost of living in Singapore, and I was like, oh. I was like, all right. That's kind of, it's not the best, but yeah, I could visit. And the reason I landed on Thailand is because Thailand gives you the best of everything that I want at this point in my life. It's one of the top destinations that's making a hard push for digital nomads, right? Has a massive expat community already. But there's a heavy push on bringing in digital nomads because as of June 1st, they announced their new 5-year destination Thailand visa, focusing on digital nomads and freelancers and whatnot to bring them over here. And it's a 5-year visa. And that 5-year visa, basically how that works is you apply for the visa online. You have to have the equivalent of 500,000 Thai baht in your bank account to show that you are able to support yourself. And that works out to be like 92,000 TT dollars. It works out to be about 14,000 US dollars. You need to have that in your bank account and show a bank statement that you have it. Then you pay $2,000 TT, 2,000 TT or 220 US dollars to apply for the visa. And then you just need to show that either you're a freelancer or if you work remotely, you just need to have a job letter saying that, you're a remote worker. And once you have that, you apply and you get the 5-year visa and you can stay in Thailand up to a year at a time. And once the year is finished, you just have to do a border run. So you leave the country, go to any one of the neighboring countries, go and drive, go do some shopping, or go and take a cheap trip to Bali. Flying to Bali from Thailand is like is 100 US. A return trip, 100 US. And cost of living in Bali is cheap too, so you can get cheap luxury hotels. So you leave, you come back, and then you get another. You essentially get another 1-year stamp, essentially, right? They stamp you for 180 days, and then you can go to immigration to do an extension. They give you another 180 days, and then at the end of your year, you hop out of the country, do some shopping somewhere else, and come back in, and you get another $180 stamp, right? And that goes on for the validity of your DTV visa, the Destination Thailand visa, for 5 years. And so I've identified, when they made that announcement, was right around the time I was researching for everything else. That was June 1st. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. But then, here's what else happened. Whilst they announced that, they also announced that they were going to be expanding the list of visa-free entry countries from 60 to 93. And that went into implementation just under 2 weeks ago. And Jamaica and Trinidad have just been added to the list of visa-free entry into Thailand for 60 days. So now, before you needed to apply for a tourist visa, now you can just fly to Thailand and you're going to get 60 days one-time stamp. Not one time, but you're going to get a 60-day stamp on arrival. You don't need a visa. So you just fly to Thailand. You're going to get 60 days on your stamp, and then you can extend it for another 30. All right? So you get 3 months. Let's just say if you wanted to come spend 6 months in Thailand, you would go, fly in, get your 60-day stamp. You extend it for another month. You do a border run. You leave, go to Malaysia, go to Cambodia, go to Vietnam, wherever you want to go to Bali, wherever. Come back. You could just go across the border, come back, and you'll get another 60-day stamp. And then you can extend it again, and there you go. You got 6 months. All right? Now, with Thailand, they allow you to do a land border run twice a year. So you could leave at the end of 3 months, drive across the border, come back into the country twice per year. So you can get 9 months without a visa in Thailand, right? After that 9 months, you'd have to, jump on a plane because you can only do 2 land border runs. Other than that, you'd have to jump on a plane and go to a neighboring country and come back through Thailand in the air. If you are trying to do that same strategy that I just told you. Without the land border run, you'd have to come in through air. So you fly across, come back in to get another 6-day stamp. So you could essentially spend a year without any visas. But then, when you get to a year and they see that you're leaving and you're coming, then the question will be asked, hey, what are we doing? Now you need a long-term visa, right? But you could do a year, no problem, without a visa. So if you're somebody where you just needed some time away from the Caribbean, you could do that in Thailand. You could do that exactly how I just kind of laid it out. You could do that, and then you could always come back to Trinidad, right, or Jamaica or wherever. So, but for me, I know I want to spend some time outside of the Caribbean. I know I want big city. I know I want to be in a place where, again, I'm inspired again. The cost of living is one of the best in the world. Thailand has next to no crime. It's one of the safest countries in the world. They are ranked number 12 in the world for having the best healthcare system in the world. So they have one of the best healthcare systems, and it's one of the most affordable healthcare systems in the entire world. So safety is great. Healthcare is amazing. They thrive off of medical tourism. So again, that's how you know they're world class, because medical tourism is a major thing. I was watching a YouTube the other day, and he was like how he came in for a colonoscopy, and he paid $140 for his colonoscopy. Just to give an idea as to the cost of healthcare over there, right? People fly in and do their braces. Seen a guy pay $200 to get his braces done, versus having to spend over $5,000 in the U.S. So the cost of living is great. They're catering for digital nomads. I've been going through rental prices. Listen, you can get literally 5-star condos with all the amenities. I'm talking rooftop pools, gyms, game rooms, theater rooms, co-working spaces. You can get condos for as low as, the lowest I've seen is $180 a month. You can get apartments from as low as $20 per month. All right. So the affordability of housing is absolutely insane. The cost of food, absolutely cheap. We're talking cents, we're talking dollars. And Thai cuisine is ranked as top 5 in the entire world. Doesn't matter who you ask. Thai cuisine is one of the best in the world. So when you stack all of these things up, for me and where I'm at in my life, I think I'm getting, and also with the environment of Thailand, you don't just get big city. You get big, you do get big city, but when you want island life, when you want pristine, crystal clear waters, hello, you have some of the best destinations in the world for the best beaches. Phuket, Pattaya, Phi Islands. Thailand has some of the highest destinations, or some of the best destinations when it comes to beaches in the entire world. So you get island life, you get big city life, you get rural life. Thailand is big. There is a lot of different spaces that you can go and spend time in, right? And so you're getting everything. Well, I'm getting everything that I want without compromise. And so that led to my decision of choosing Thailand. So the reason I'm even making this, the reason I'm even making this episode is I know that I want to share that journey. All right. This is not going to be, the first, this is just part 1 of the migration, just kind of announcing the why and where I'm going. But my goal right now, is to get on that plane by the end of September, early October. So I just have a couple of in-person events that I'm scheduled for in September. So I just need to confirm when in September, and that will dictate when I move. And I want to be able to share that journey because there's a lot of things that I have to do before I move. So when I apply for the visa, I want to talk about that. When I apply for the international driver's license, all those things that are going to go into me moving, I definitely want to share that experience for you because, again, I know there's going to be people that want to know. They might even be thinking about Thailand themselves or some other places. So I want to share that journey with you. And yeah, so this is going to be part 1. Just kind of announcing that, yeah, migration is absolutely happening. And I'll definitely be sharing that journey with you. And I'm excited. I cannot be any more excited than I am. It's a new challenge. It's a new journey. I'm excited to be re-inspired again, and I'm excited to start doing my best work. So yeah, Thailand, September. Or going into August. That's right there. But again, it's a decision that, did not come likely. It's been months of research at this point, and I've just finally decided that I can come out and talk about it. And again, I know there's going to be people that are listening here where there's a nugget of information. Maybe it is permission for themselves to even start thinking about their own journeys and where they want to go. The limitations in Trinidad are really, really high. And whilst the environment is going to be conducive for some people to live, right? There's going to be some, there are obviously people here where all of the restrictions and limitations and the high crime doesn't bother them, right? And they're okay with everything in Trinidad, and that's cool. But you just have to remember that you need to be the author of your own life and your own story. And whatever you decide to do, it's your decision to make. You need to make that decision. Don't wait. You're not a tree. You're not planted. You can always decide to move. Whether you have kids or not, you could always decide to change your circumstances. You can always decide. Kids are going to be better off when they're able to see a different environment, see a different culture, learn a different language, eat different food, broaden their horizons and experiences. You yourself can change your job. You can learn new skills. Many of you have been emailing me over the past couple of weeks and months. You want to get into new fields, and that's why I've been sharing you the new skills that are in demand, where to go and learn these skills, where to go and apply for new jobs that are looking for remote workers. All that stuff, I've been sharing all of it. You have the power to change your circumstances. How badly do you want to change your circumstances? Because I am not special. All I've been able to do was give myself permission to explore. And over the years, I've given myself permission to learn new skills and to live a different life. And that different life means I get to work remote. I could have been getting a job, a physical job that has me going into the office. I had that. Remember, I went back in corporate. I was at Flow for 6 months. And then I said, deuces. But you have all these decisions that you can make. Everybody's situation and circumstances are different. Some is going to be easier. Some is going to be harder to make certain decisions. But don't ever allow yourself to think that you cannot change your circumstances. I'm somebody who had multiple run-ins with the law. Right? I've talked about that in episode 1. I put myself in some extremely dangerous and terrible situations. And I had to make that decision to get myself together. And I'm making another decision. How do I put myself in an even better situation so that I can be better? I need to be better for myself. And in being better for myself, I can be better for everybody that I'm involved with. And so take this episode as food for thought for your own journey. If you know you're being called for more, if you know that your circumstances are the best, then you need to start asking yourself the right questions. What can I do to change my circumstances? When you start to ask yourself the right questions, you are going to force yourself to come up with answers. And so when I ask myself, how do I create the life that I want? How do I put myself in a better situation? How do I become the best version of me? I began to do the homework needed to answer those questions. And this is why we are at where we are at. This is what has led me to come to Trinidad. And this is what is leading me to go to Thailand. Will I come back to the Caribbean? I can't answer that. I do know that all of the work that I do within the entire region and diaspora is all digital. So you're still going to see me writing for Newsday and Jamaica Observer. You're still going to see me on CNC3. You'll still hear me on radio because I could do radio remotely. You'll still see my content. You're still going to see me teaching at UE teaching at Lockjack, you're still going to see me doing all these things because I can do all of them remote. And all of that I am doing is on purpose. I've curated that life that allows me to work and do everything that I need to do and want to do remotely, so it doesn't matter where I live. That was done on purpose. So now I can truly be what a digipreneur is. And that's somebody who has time freedom. I don't punch a clock. Someone who has location freedom. I could work from anywhere. And now being able to earn a higher currency and live in a more affordable environment, it's going to be a lot easier now to have financial freedom. I have been out of survivor mode and struggling for a couple of years now. And whilst I'm not rich, I'm not struggling. I'm not scrunting. I'm not, now if I pay a bill late, it's because I forgot. Listen, that's when you know things are going good, Now, when you forget to pay a bill, it's because you forgot. Not because you didn't have it, not because you were ducking and dodging. Now, when you, and I mean, heck, I'll get to a point where I'll get like the really financially free people who just put all of their bills on pre-authorized credit card debits. Just set it up automatically so I don't ever have to think about paying my phone bill, my cable bill. It just comes off the credit card automatically, and I only pay one thing a month, and that's the credit card. I'm trying to get to that level, right? Well, now I'm at the point where I'm not at that level yet where I'm just going to go ahead and send all my bills to the credit card. Now I'm just at the point where if I miss a bill payment, it's because I forgot, not because I did not have the money. And so now, physically being in a place where I believe TT dollars to Thai baht is like 5-1. Let me see. 1 TTD to baht is, 5.2. 1 TT dollar is 5.2 Thai. So your TT dollars go way further in Thailand than it does in Trinidad. So being able to put myself in a situation where I'm going to have more runway to do what I need to do, where my money is going further and further and further than would me physically just being in Trinidad, is just going to give me more financial freedom. And that is what being a digipreneur is all about. So even when I named my business, I knew what I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be a digital entrepreneur. But now, you're going to really see me take that to another level, because now you're going to see me being able to do that anywhere I have an internet connection. And so I invite you on this journey with me. You will see it in the content, whether it be the articles, the podcast, the videos. You're going to see that over the next however long. Will I come back to the Caribbean? I don't know. But I know that 5 to 10 years in a different country or different countries, being able to see, get exposed, learn new skills, see new systems, see new technology, I know is only going to help me be the best version of me. And when I am firing on all cylinders, I can be the best version for you, the people who look to me for leadership, for guidance, for assistance, or just to watch. You'll be able to see what I do, how I do it, and all that information that I get and I pass on, it's coming to you as well. And hopefully that allows you or helps you become the better versions of you. So that was part 1. In part 2, when I start to apply for everything, I will start to talk about the process and how I was doing everything. But yeah, that's it for me today. If you guys, as always, enjoy the episode, make sure you guys rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, any place that you guys consume your podcasts on. And if you really enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to drop a review. The reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, they help to continue to grow the digipreneur community across the world. And every time somebody wants to listen to an episode or check out a new podcast, they check the reviews first. So go ahead and drop that review. Don't forget you can follow me on social media at KeronRosc across all social media platforms. And you can check out the KeronRose.com website itself to learn more about building your digital presence and monetizing your platforms. And check out the digipreneur.fm website to stay up to date with all things related to the podcast. That is it from me today, folks. Enjoy your Monday. I'll see you guys in the next one, and take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Keron Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Keron Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.